Hello, beautiful souls. I'm Jenny Aiello, and this is With Love, Jenny, a podcast where we meet ourselves right in the heart of our vulnerability and authenticity. In this sacred space where it's just you and I dive into real life, rich with wisdom and opportunities for deep healing. I explore what it means to truly connect to ourselves, to each other, and to something much greater than us all. In each podcast, I like to meet life right where it touches us most, in our tenderness, in our truth, in our struggles and our strength. So wherever you are on your journey, or whatever it is that you're carrying, no matter how light or heavy, just know I'm so grateful that you're here with me today. So take a deep breath, settle in, and let's begin today's episode. Hey there, and welcome to another episode of With Love, Jenny. Today, I'm here with my co-host, Kristen Goins, and we are going to embark on a profound exploration into the depths of our struggles, challenges, and the power that exists in the center of our darkest hour. I'm your host, Jenny Aiello, and today, let's uncover the tools and the inspiration that we need to face our fears, sadness, our despair, our grief, to sit in that darkness and understand the incredible benefits that arise when we confront our deepest pain and also discover our shadow, that place that holds all of our fears and doubts, our self-criticism, and our judgment. While we all love to embrace light and positivity anywhere that we can, I have found that there's immense beauty in acknowledging and sitting with our darkness. Contrary to popular belief, sitting in the center of our darkest hour can have unique benefits if you can endure the discomfort long enough. We're going to delve into the personal growth, the increased self-awareness, and a newfound strength that often emerges when we confront our deepest fear and challenge. The darkness, as it turns out, can be a powerful catalyst for positive change. One time when I was coaching someone, I heard them say something kind of loud as she was realizing we just opened a door of new growth for her. And she just was like, AFGO. And I said, what? And she shouted again, AFGO. And I said, what are you saying? I don't know what you're saying. And she said, it stands for another freaking growth opportunity. And I always laugh whenever I find myself hitting a challenge or getting triggered or spiraling into shame. I know it's another growth opportunity. And those AFGO periods of our life are invitations for a very deep, healing, transformative growth and a path to inner peace like we have never, ever known before. But here's the thing. Facing our darkest hour requires a specific set of tools, skills, coping mechanisms, and a recipe for developing internal strength, all at the same time. Those qualities and skills need to be honed while we're not in our darkest hour. So when we do find ourselves suffering, we have them to lean on. When we are navigating through challenging times, we need to have good self-esteem. We need a lot of faith, a strong sense of identity, some experience with trusting that the process will work out eventually, surrounding yourself with the right kind of support, setting and maintaining healthy boundaries, and so much more. So then you have to combine that. And I believe it helps so much if you can combine that with mindfulness practices. I think sometimes we need to get outside help and then harness the power of self-reflection. And then you not only get through it, but you'll grow and learn about yourself more than any other time in your life. So often we want to leave those darkest hours behind. We just want to get away from them. And I find that if you embrace the process and if you sit with them and you work with them, you grow immensely. That's been my experience. And so our goal today is to discuss the tools that are needed to navigate your darkest hours. And right now, today, maybe you're sitting in your shadow or sitting in darkness and wondering how you're going to get through whatever is happening. If so, listen closely and use these tips and tools today to harness energy and find inspiration, as well as finding the courage it's going to take for you to take the next step. And then today, listening to this, you might be having a mountaintop experience. And it's the perfect time to learn about these tools and sharpen them so that they're ready to go if and when you're thrown into a downward spiral. So when I started thinking about this topic, I said to myself, okay, Jenny, well, what was your darkest hour? Some call it the dark night of the soul. And so I asked myself, what was your darkest hour? Okay, so I have to admit, I was surprised. I can still feel a flood of the emotions that came up for me as I started to think about all of them. There was little moments that I thought were big moments, like when we had to move out of my beloved childhood home and say goodbye to the place that helped me grow up. My divorce, that was a pretty dark period for me. But I think that some of my darkest hours came through experiencing something difficult that I was going through with each one of my children. So with all of those, I decided, all right, my darkest hours, I'm going to make a list. And I was surprised that my list of darkest hours was kind of long. We can have more than one. So after I wrote down a list of times when I fell into darkness, I ended up stopping at 10. The first 10 came to me right away. And I was going to share the story today about the one that I felt made the top of the list, the number one darkest hour. But this topic today, as I explored it further, is going to lead us into some really powerful discussion. And so my number one darkest hour is a really long story. And I don't really want to spend time going deep into it because I want to go deep into what I learned from it. But here it is in a nutshell. Facing rejection for me is the doorway into my darkness, especially because I don't like being disliked. I'm a people pleaser. It's all wrapped up in one big thing. So anytime I've been rejected by someone, it just cuts deeper than any kind of challenge, like even death or hardship. Rejection is my doorway. Also, the relationship between a parent and a child, to me, is sacred. And often the most challenging relationship that we can end up having in our entire life. Motherhood isn't easy all the time. So when I experienced rejection from one of my children, it sent me reeling. It is the gateway for me to feel that I am not good enough. It sends me into feelings of shame and disappointment in myself. I feel a sense of abandonment. I get depressed. I try my best to control circumstances to fix it. And when I can't, I end up sitting in that darkness alone, and I push everyone else out. That number one darkest hour experience, I'll be honest, took me 5 years before I could even begin to do the work I needed to do to recover. And then it took a couple of more before I could figure out what the work was and how to get through it. Healing wounds, it's not, a quick fix. Healing emotional wounds, we can't rush it. It takes time and energy, and it honestly can be exhausting. So we have to pace ourselves. We might want to quit doing the work, but we just end up back in the darkness and depression and isolation, feeling stuck. So when you start doing the work, keep going. Keep going. It works. And we're going to share so much of what works when you're sitting in those really periods of despair. And in this, we should also say that you're going to confront your shadow. In the very first tool, we're going to talk about it, how the shadow wants to be part of the process. So we're going to talk about that. And we're going to find out what is it that we need so we can climb out of the darkness with specific steps, all leading you back to the light. So, Kristen, are you ready to dive into some discussion? Because we're going to start. You have thoughts before we do?
I do, but let's go ahead and start.
Okay. All right. For me, the very first thing I figured out that I had to learn was a strong sense of who I am. I had to have a strong sense of identity. And I'm talking about who I am in my purest form of light? Who am I that is the capital T truth about my identity? And I say capital T truth like capital S in self. It's our higher self came here, and we are in this human form, and we stand for something and we believe in something. And I think that this particular step is often overlooked. And as someone who's very codependent, losing my identity in the codependency, which is part of that, made my darkest hours even darker. Because if I don't really know who I am, then how will I know how to rely on myself in tough times? So it's important to remember that you are invaluable, that your worth is non-negotiable. No one else can show up as you in the world. You bring your own unique qualities that are designed to be here in this time and in this space at this moment. And no one else has all the pieces that fit together that make you, and you matter. So what comes up for you, Kristen, when you start to think about what it means to have a strong sense of identity?
It's really wild when you think about it, because if you've grown up in trauma, you lose that sense of identity and you really forget. And it's like, I wonder, is your whole point being here to remember back to who you were or who you truly are, and then to build upon it, because we're here in Earth School,
Yes.
And a lot of people never got that advantage to discover who they truly are, because so much was laid upon them in the early years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like when I mentioned my childhood home, it built me, and it built the capital T truth in me. And I was very planted in that, when I went out in the world, very naively went out into the world, I might say. And so I squandered that away. I didn't make it important. I began my codependent journey, of sometimes using that. Like I love unconditionally and forgot to love myself unconditionally as I was proving I could love unconditionally, which wasn't actually a true unconditional love. When it becomes codependent, it's not. It's like martyrdom showed up, and self-sacrifice and all of that, to the point I forgot that I mattered. So yeah, this is really a strong sense of identity, is to be able to say capital T truths about what you know yourself to be, and for some people, they're I am statements. That's how you start to identify it. I am kind and loving to myself and others. They become I am statements that you can say are true. Some people can do it in one statement. Others will take 5. And I encourage you to write them down, to think about, like, who am I? What do I stand for? What do I believe? In my truest form, not in worldly form.
Right. And I think if you can really think back to your early childhood days, before maybe, I don't know why the word tainted is coming to me, but I just remember being a daydreamer and living in wonder and loving watching the ants crawl across the cement and being in stillness. But then you forget that because life takes over. Mm-hmm. And it's like, who are you really? But I think you do know if you allow yourself to really, really think about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One of the things that is often asked is what happens when you tell the truth about things like, I am a control freak. And to me, that's not the capital T truth. Being a control freak or being codependent was a learned thing. It's not something you are in your purest form. And so those statements, when they show up, if you are writing something that is more about the human experience, it's probably not the capital T truth about who you are. And it's important to identify those, but I will tell you that as a human being, we're talking about the being sense of identity,
right? Not
the human side of that equation, right? In our humanness, we have a shadow. We all have a shadow part. and it holds all our fears and doubts. It's where the saboteur will show up there, the self-critic, will show up, the judge will show up, all of these voices that like to blast in our heads when we mess up or do something wrong, those are all stored in our shadow, and they aren't a part of that original essence.
Right. And it's almost like if you could allow yourself a few moments to put all those things aside, like it's okay, you don't have to carry them in this moment, and really connect to your light, because your light will be there, and ask,
Yes.
Who am I? I guarantee you will hear. Just write down whatever you sense or feel or hear, because that light has been waiting for this moment for you to know this.
Right. To remember it.
Right.
And to claim it. And I think it is a remembering. So we think about body parts as members of our body, and dismembered. I'm dismembered because, if we lose a part of our body. And so when we remember, it's bringing ourselves back to wholeness. And that's what this journey and healing through darkness is, returning us to whole, to home, to who we are. And if we don't know anything about who we are because we haven't done that work, then we might not recognize it when we do discover it. So making a list, come up with 1 to 5 things that you can say when you look in the mirror as an affirmation of something that you truly know is unique to you. And that brings you that sense of, because of these things, I can be okay. I can do anything. I can do hard things. I can fill in the blank.
I just had another thought. What if you do know your things right away, but it's almost scary that you know what they are and you don't use them?
I think that's an awareness. I mean, all of these tools are going to raise awareness.
Right.
So if you go, wow, I forget these all the time, but I knew them. It's like a reminder, like, okay, they were right there for me. And it's okay that I forgot them. Right now, my awareness is this is what they are. And I'm here to keep remembering them. Because if you're in the darkest hour, you need to know this. And if you're on the mountaintop having a great day, you need to know this because both are going to happen in our life. Nobody gets out alive. Nobody gets out of here alive. We're going to have our bumps and bruises. We're going to have our darkest hours, come and go. And we're going to have good times in between. And the quality of life in all of that creates the rich tapestry that we are living every day, and so we're not guaranteed a Disney life, we're not guaranteed for the happily ever after, never having skinned our knees or felt pain. We're here to experience the whole part of life. And some of us experience excruciating pain, and others have hours, and some people have years of darkness. But we have to learn to not be afraid of the dark. We're actually taught, to be afraid of the dark. And to me, the darkness has its own beauty, its own pulsating energy that it literally feeds my soul when I will sit with it and reflect there and not be afraid to be in it, fully in it. It offers so many gifts that otherwise can't be seen unless you're in the dark. It's truly amazing when you are willing to have the courage to interact with it. And I'm not talking about darkness like dark forces of energy. I'm talking about the times that we're inside feeling alone and lost. Like it's our darkest hour, meaning I'm in despair and I'm sad and I'm despondent about life. It's those things that crush us, that our heart breaks. It's the things that make it hard to breathe, experiences that are above and beyond, just a sad story. So that's the kind of darkness that we're talking about. So the second tool that I want to introduce you to think about, it's all stuff you already know, but we're putting them together in this specific toolbox, is self-esteem, which comes from an assessment of our own worth, our value and our capabilities. High self-esteem is going to reflect a positive self-perception, and low self-esteem indicates a negative self-perception. We're not born with self-esteem. And some people wonder, like, where does self-esteem even come from? But we're not born with it. It's created by our life experiences, especially those from our very early childhood. And it's influenced by factors such as things we achieve, the relationships that we're in, our family, our birth order, family dynamics, our experiences with our family in school, the neighborhood, socioeconomic conditions, things we were told about ourselves. All of those are personal experiences that shape our confidence and our emotional well-being. So cultivating healthy self-esteem involves recognizing those strengths, which we talked about in the earlier one. Recognize the strengths about who you are. But it also, healthy self-esteem allows you to accept your flaws, your imperfections with grace, and still build a positive self-image. If we're given feedback or criticism and immediately react and even get very defensive, we probably need to work on our self-esteem. So in my dark hour story, for me, being a good mom was one of the most important jobs I would ever do in my lifetime. I put it in the category of most important thing I would ever do. And I felt as though I poured my all into motherhood. So the situation that arose where it led to kind of a rejection was the ultimate blow to my self-esteem. And accepting imperfection was not something I knew how to do. And I certainly didn't do it very well. Being a perfectionist is part of feeling not good enough all the time. So we seek to do things perfectly, not to feel the feeling of not good enough. And we all know that perfection for us doesn't exist. We'll always strive to look for perfection, but we will never reach it. We can certainly say we'll do our work and live our lives in excellence, meaning as good as it could possibly be. But perfection, it's a pretty high bar. And so, looking back at that darkest hour, I didn't know how to react to that. And I reacted to it with going into deep shame. And from an overpowering force of nature that could demand something else must be wrong here because it just couldn't be me. Low self-esteem wounds can lay dormant for a really long time until someone comes along and exposes them, which allows us the invitation to heal. And so my darkest hour helped me heal the wound of experiencing betrayal and rejection, what felt like betrayal and rejection. And I had to build my self-esteem before I could even see that in that situation. I had to do the things that would help me build that self-esteem up. So what are your thoughts on that, Kristen?
I just keep thinking about how I am a perfectionist in my work, in the upkeep of my house. And the thing that keeps coming to me is I don't want to disappoint people. I don't want to disappoint myself. And I think I have been running on that because I was disappointed with, and I hate to say this out loud, with the mother I received. And I don't want anyone to ever feel that way about me.
So that's how an unhealed wound projects itself into, I was disappointed, therefore I don't want to be a disappointment because it sucks. Right. And that's how it's a feedback loop, and, my husband, Bob, always says people do things for good reasons. They might still be wrong, but they do things for good reason. And so when I become controlling, it's for a good reason. We have to look for that sometimes. But instead of thinking I'm trying to control things out here for good reason so I don't feel uncomfortable.
Right.
Instead of looking inside saying, why am I feeling uncomfortable? when out there is happening. That's where the work is. It's turning inward and excavating that emotion, that thing we're trying not to feel by controlling situations, right? And so to go back to that for you and say, wow, what do I need to heal? How do I do this? And that can take years of work to really get into how do I make peace with that wound that you defined.
Jenny knows I've been working on this for 3 or 4 years, and
Yes.
I definitely have gotten to better places and am now able to see things as gifts for me, but it's so deep that it still haunts me. So it's like a continual lesson. But to me, I keep thinking maybe it's a continual lesson because there's so much more nutrient soil in there for me, if that makes any sense.
Right. Yeah. When you think about what makes good soil for plants to grow, I won't say what it is, but there's good fertilizer in that soil, And so when your life has good fertilizer, we'll call it, in it, we're planted in things. And, I love using nature as a resource, and planting. When you put a seed into the dark, nutrient rich soil with the fertilizer in it, it probably thinks it's buried. I'm buried and I'm alone. I'm in the dark, but a life force comes through and it pushes its way toward the light up above the soil, and a plant grows, and sometimes it manifests fruit and vegetables from it, or a beautiful tree emerges, but it's planted. It begins in darkness. The indigenous built kivas, and they would go down. They were underground, and it was they would go down a ladder and sit in the earth and plant themselves in darkness and do sweat lodges in darkness until they could heal. And then they climb back up the ladder out of the kiva toward the light, just like a plant grows toward the light, renewed and refreshed and ready to take that growth back out into the world. And so the self-talk that we have to pay attention to. We were told things about us that might have been true about our behavior, but not true about who we are. And parents did not know the importance of that distinction. I didn't until it was, my kids were practically grown. But affirming a child to say, you are, wonderfully, beautifully made. What you did was wrong. Yes, what happened is disappointing, but you are not a disappointment. Those are real big distinctions for a child's psyche, because those are the seeds that get planted in the part of their mind that comes back around when we hit our challenges, right? Those are the voices that will manifest in our head. So it's very important to pay attention to that.
I just had a thought. So we always talk about, at least in Jenny's work, planting good seeds, but you just made a reference, which I thought was very bold, in terms of we have seeds planted in us when we were little that were not good. Mm-hmm. So now it's like we're so used to these weeds that have grown and they're so strong that we need to learn how to remove them to make room for the seeds of who we really need to grow into, if that makes any sense.
Right. Yeah. When I was growing up, we planted great big gardens, and my dad would till the soil, get the rocks out, fertilize it, he'd prepare the earth, and then we would plant all the seeds. We had all these vegetables. It was so fun. And then we had these beautiful garden would grow, but so did all the weeds. And the biggest part of tending a garden is removing them. Right. And we had to go out and row by row, pull up all the weeds and the hay and the grass and all the stuff that would grow in between our rows of food. And if we didn't, the weeds will kill the plant. They will take the light. They will eat the nutrients of the soil and leave none for the vegetable that's trying to grow. So we have to clean out those weeds those seeds that were planted that aren't true and aren't serving us. And it's that, to me, is a responsibility that we have to mindfully be aware of that, which we'll get to that one. It's actually in one of our tools, but definitely important to make note of that some seeds are planted of greatness, some are not, and we have to be the ones responsible for, weeding them out, so to speak. So yes, so nurture that self-esteem, pay attention to the environment and what you put in your head, but mostly that inner dialogue. For me, the judge and the critic are always in the shadow, fertilizing the weeds for me. They are constantly reminding me of all my flaws. And I have to quiet that. I have to quiet that voice and embrace what's true and live from that place.
And maybe the tools for that, like the shovel you would use for gardening, is care and love. Like, how do you reframe that in your mind of letting the judge and the victim take over and remembering that care and love is more powerful?
Well, I start actually, when I did the shadow work, it was learning how to put care and love into the critic. What are you feeling? I let them have voice because they're trying to protect me from something.
Right.
And so I put care and love into it, but also don't buy into it. I don't buy into what they're telling me, but I say, it's okay. I've got this. Thank you for reminding me that I might get hurt. It's a good reminder that I don't like to be rejected, but I'm going to put care and love around my heart and put care and love in the world anyway, because that is who I am. So that's how it goes back to how to interact with the saboteur, the critic, the judge, all the shadow parts, the doubt, the fear, the worry, the anxiety, all that's in our shadow. Saying to it, yes, putting care and love toward you, and I'm going to put who I am in the world anyway. If I don't have, number one, that sense of who I am, then all I'm left with is, well, that is who I am, is what that voice is telling me. So it's saying, no, I'm going to reclaim this and then take action from that space.
Yeah, it's almost like you are worth pulling those tools out of your shed.
Oh man, so worth it.
Yeah.
And life is so much richer when you do.
And knowing that no matter what, everyone has those tools.
Yeah, every one of us.
Special people.
No, you're not flawed in that way. Everyone can do this. The third, well, that kind of segues. So the third one is about faith. And honestly, I have to say, I don't know how anyone gets through this life without some sort of faith to lean on. Maybe some of you listeners have figured out how to do that. But for me, it's the one thing that I have to lean on most in my life, especially to get through those darkest hours. I read somewhere that faith is a perception. It's how and what we see. And faith to me is believing that everything happens for our highest good. Even when we're being planted in darkness, it's serving us in a higher good that I don't have. In my short-sightedness, I can't see how there's anything good that's going to come out of this dark moment of my life. But I have a faith that it will. I have a belief that it will. And the more I clocked down that list of darkest hours, the more I saw myself as I tracked them. I put them all together and I tracked how that experience played out. And each time I relied more on that, to the point where, the most recent one didn't take me long to get through the darkest part of that. Even without the situation changing, I was able to leave the darkness out of it and just embrace what is and use these tools much better because I had been honing them with each experience leading up to it. And my faith is always looking for the light. I'm always looking for that silver lining. I'm always not just looking for it, but believing I will find it and that it's there and that I will understand at some point down the road how that served my highest good. And I want to put a little asterisk here. And that is, there are things that I will say my number one darkest hour still hasn't fully revealed the silver lining. I still don't know how it served my highest good. Sometimes I can still look at it and say, really? Like, was that necessary? Did I have to learn that specific lesson that specific way? And yeah, I did, but I still don't know why. And I literally have this beautiful little wooden box that sits right. I'm sitting here looking at it. And when I have things that I have to put my tool of faith in place because I don't have answers, I call it the mystery. It's my mystery box. And I just say, I don't understand why this happened. I don't see the good and how it served anything good. I'm still planted in darkness around this wound or this experience that I just had, but I'm going to turn it over and put it in the mystery box. And I write down what it is and I fold it up and I put a prayer over it and I stick it in that mystery box. And that's how I let it go. It's like, okay, I don't think I believe that I'll know when it's time for me to know. And if I don't know yet, it isn't time for me to know. And so it goes in the mystery box. And that has helped me because I can get stuck there. I can get real stuck. Like I can't move on till I understand. Well, I've sat in that darkness, not understanding for many years, over and over. And you lose the opportunity for some really beautiful living and loving and caring and growing if you take yourself out until you understand. So that's my way of turning it over. It's in the mystery box until I can get back to it or until it's time for that to be revealed. In the meantime, I don't have time to sit and be stuck in sadness. I have work to do. And I pick myself up by my bootstraps and I start moving on. But I had to learn how to take that one step. If I couldn't just rely on my faith because I wanted my faith to resolve it, then I could say, I do believe that things will work out, are happening for me, not to me. And this one I don't understand. So I'll put it in the mystery box and I'm going to keep moving on.
I love that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And so what do you believe? Like if faith is a perception of how you see the world, what's it look like? And what do you put your faith in? Do you put your faith in fear and control? Because I try that. It doesn't work. Or do you believe in a higher power or a greater good that can be served? And how you approach challenges depends on what that perception is. And you can change your perception at any time.
I keep thinking, if there's any listeners out there thinking, well, what if I don't have faith? I don't trust in faith. I lost faith a long time ago. How would that work for me? But you kind of hit the nail on the head. It's like people could say they don't have faith, but you had faith in fear. You had faith in control. It's like, it's always there. You just have to learn how to use it in a different way.
Yeah. And it's not necessarily, faith in the religious context.
Right. That's what I wanted to point out.
Yeah. It's literally, I had a client and they said, I trust me, myself, and I put my faith in myself. Like that's the only thing I put my faith in. And it's like, okay, well, how's that working? That's a lot, right?
It's funny. I got a tattoo when I was 19, actually in Las Vegas. It sounds so funny, but it's a Chinese symbol of faith. And whenever I would tell people about it, I would make sure to point out, oh, it means faith in myself, not faith in God, because I had rejected that part of my life. And it's so strange, the full circle I've come back to.
Right? It is. But isn't that how it works? That's how this works.
Like I used to think it was either one or the other, but now I've learned it can be both, faith in myself and faith in God or a higher power or whatever you call it.
Yeah. Yeah. The universe, it can be whatever.
The mystery, like you said.
Some people use their faith like a fate, like some people gamble away what they have faith in. It's I'll risk it. I'll take the risk. I'm going to put my faith in doing something rebellious, and that something is going to say, and I trust I'm going to be okay. It's what do you put your faith in? There's something in there. We're born with it. So you have to excavate till you find it? What do you rely on? What do you count on? What do you put your faith into? Is it, I have faith that people will disappoint me. You can have that as your faith. And what I can tell you from an energetic standpoint is that what you put your faith in, whatever that belief is the belief that attracts more of the same. So if you say, I have faith that I will always be disappointed, I put my faith in the fact that, or I don't have faith in humanity. I don't have faith that people are going to do the right thing. You can say it that way. And then you get people who don't. So in the world of energy, you want to probably change that perception, because all it does is let you be right. And if I'm going to be right about something, I sure want it to be something positive. So
Right.
pay attention to what is it? What is your perception? And how do you navigate that? All right. And that I slipped and said, well, what do you put your trust in? And that's number 4. In whom do you trust? So this gets a little bit more into the category. It takes faith into a category of action. So I have faith in this and I trust. Do you trust it? So in whom do you trust? Some answer that I only trust myself, as we just said. Others trust in God or a higher power. Some trust in fate or intangible things to feel safe and secure, like power and money. So it's important to spend time examining how well do you trust life?
And do you think if you cannot trust yourself, then you cannot trust God, or like the chicken and the egg? What comes first? Do you have to be able to trust God to trust yourself? Like, have you ever thought about that?
Yeah. That can get into a knot, actually, like it is a circular conversation. The two go hand in hand for me. I can have faith and then not trust it. I can say, oh, I have faith that things will always turn out well, but I don't trust it enough to just allow that. I'm going to take control.
Right.
So the way
habit.
trust shows up for me in an area of I take control, which says I don't trust that things are going to be okay. I might have a mental belief that I see good in the world, but my actions and my control and my coping mechanisms are saying the opposite. And so you do want to say, if this is what I believe, I'm trying to think of a good example, but if I believe wholeheartedly that people are inherently good, then do I trust that? I mean, there's some really deep questions we have to go into, because part of me as a coach says, no, we want to have boundaries, and, there's reasons, there's people that are broken in the world. Maybe they started out that way, but they haven't done their work. And so we have to trust ourselves to know how to navigate. Trust that if we make a mistake, we'll be okay. Trust that if we get knocked down, we can get back up. Trust that we will have the resources if and when we need them to navigate something difficult. Trust to me is faith in action. And it is a complicated relationship between the two, which I love. I love those. And so we want you to be really thinking, what do you put your faith in, and how well do you trust what you believe? There's an expression or a phrase, I'm trying to think what it's called, but it's used in recovery a lot. And it says, this too shall pass. And I use that all the time. When things are going really, really, really well, I will enjoy the heck out of it and go, man, what a great day. Life is good. I'm just living. I'm nailing it. Everything's, wonderful. And I will end my day with gratitude, because I know this too shall pass. Because we don't ever no one lives on earth that has blue skies and sunshine every single day. Nothing could live in that space, because we need rain. We need clouds and storms to come through and provide rain in our ecosystem. Our emotional system requires the same, right? So we're going to have storms roll in. We're going to have cloudy days, gloomy moods. We're going to have broken hearts that, thunder and fire and all the elements, come rushing into our emotional body. And we have to remember, in those times, in those darkest hours, this too shall pass. And so remember that. It's really important. And then paying attention to those voices that we talked about that live in the shadow, that's saying, oh, something's always going to go wrong. Something always has to be a problem. There always has to be somebody in my life causing an issue. If you carry anxiety, you probably have some issues with trust that happened. Something broke your trust. And so you want to work on that and learn how to trust yourself, to trust God, to trust life itself and all its outcomes. And if you can ever learn to master the thought, everything is falling into place, everything is working out for my greatest good, then you're going to get those results. And if you don't, they're in the mystery box. but it does require that you go deeper into those beliefs.
I agree. I was journaling the other morning and it just came to me. You know how everyone talks about, oh, what's your purpose? Everyone's trying to find their purpose. And it just came to me that life is the purpose. Like, let that sink in. Like, life is the purpose. Whatever is happening to you is the purpose.
Yep. It's
so
it's your soul's journey.
about it. Like, it's already happening for you. You don't have to go out there and look for it.
Right. Whatever it is, Matt Kahn wrote a book, whatever
arises, love that. I have the book.
Yes, whatever arises, love it. Just love that because that is part of your purpose. It is. So, yes.
Like, your purpose is to fully be human, and fully being human is the good and the bad. And Jenny and I had this talk a while ago. Like, we're so taught that the bad is so bad, but how can we look at it in a new lens?
Right. Perception.
Yeah.
Change your perception, because if it's falling into place, not falling apart, then it changes your perception. It's pretty cool. All right. Our fifth and last tool that we're going to talk about today. And you guys, there's a part 2 to this podcast because we have 5 more to talk about in our next episode. So you're going to want to really listen to this one and build on these because they build on one another. Number 5 was really hard for me. It's really hard. I still catch myself doing it all the time. And it's attachment to outcomes. I had to learn to let go of any outcome while not losing faith that things would soon be better. Now, think about that. How do I let go of my attachment to an outcome and not lose faith that things will soon be better? Because if I'm attached to it getting better, I'm attached to an outcome. I want to have faith that they will, but I have to let go of how it looks. When we attach to what things should look like, we set ourselves up every time. So leaning on faith and trusting that it's all serving a higher purpose, I have to let go of the attachment. I had to let go of timelines. Sometimes it would be like, well, maybe by Christmas, I'll hear from her. Surely, on my big birthday, everybody's going to want to celebrate. I get attached to outcome for family events. I get attached to all kinds of outcomes. And then I had to learn to let them go because they open up wounds every time. All the healing that I accomplished gets opened back up, and I'm not letting it have the time it needs to heal because I'm putting my own expectations on it. And the more I try to fix something or make it better, the worse it gets. And so I had to learn how to let go of attachments. What's your experience with that, Kristen? How easy or hard is it for you when you are attached?
I think I've relied on attachments. Like, that's been something that's been a comfort to me, even though it really never works out right. I keep thinking of my brain bleed that I had 2 years ago. Like, I really had to let go. I had no idea what was going to happen from one day to the next. But almost 2 years out, when I get waves of not feeling good, I'm stuck to the attachment of the outcome of why it's been almost 2 years. Why is this still here? And I get so angry and frustrated and all the things. Like, I haven't been feeling good because I've been pushing myself too hard. And it's just like, why is this still here? Like, I get so mad because I'm expecting this outcome of like, you should heal within this amount of time.
It's your timeline. Yeah, your expectation. And so if you took that experience and said, I have faith that things are going to work out for my highest good, no matter what that looks like. And it might lead me further into darkness and experiences there. And it might lead me into light, and the lightness of being and experiences there. But I do believe they're going to serve my highest good. So I will trust that it's okay for me to feel this way. To me, there's a German New Medicine. They invite you. It says that those days where you feel not so great is an invitation to the healing process. And so it's the invitation to say, what about that isn't healed yet in me? That I am attaching that outcome to this day and how I feel 2 years later.
I keep getting this visual. I literally slept with the bathroom light on until maybe my sophomore or junior year in high school, because the light is where I kept trying to get to, in a sense, because I'm thinking of this as a metaphor now. Like, if the light is there, I'm going to be okay. And from starting all this work of several years ago, I now enjoy going into my closet, shutting the door, and sitting in the darkness and really allowing that nurturing feeling. Like, it feels so good to me to allow my eyes to, like, I'm really allowing myself to rest. So it's like you got to get to a point where you feel safe in the darkness and with the trust and the faith.
Yes. Yes. It's a beautiful exercise to do. And I like to wrap in a blanket, and just be in that. Some people say it's an experience, re-experiencing the womb. We began in the dark. We were in there floating around in darkness and a void. It's like there was just us, and we could hear and sensory, but we were in the womb is the darkness. And so in some ways, embracing these darkest hours, these dark nights of the soul, are an opportunity to go back in and be rebirthed into a new way of living and being as a result. But we carry a free will, and we carry the perception of that experience, and we carry our fear, and we carry our belief systems, all the things that we've talked about, and our identity can get attached to some of that. Like, I could wear the cloak of worst mom of the year if I chose to, right? Like, I could say, oh, based on results, I could wear a cloak of shame and call that who I am. But if I were to be fully honest, that's something I did. That's some part of my story. It does not define the whole of who I am. And who I am in my light was absolutely a loving, kind, generous, dedicated mom, amongst 100 other things that I was doing. So it's what we choose to do with these experiences that really matters, and why we're doing this 2-part podcast. Because if you don't go in and do this work, you could let those dark nights of your soul become your identity and miss the best parts of yourself. And then the world misses you. So, that's why this is so important to do, all 5. So let's review as we wrap up. Or Krista, do you have any more closing thoughts before we wrap up on that last one?
Well, remember at the beginning, you asked if I had any thoughts, and I said something like, I'm not going to share them now. This kind of leads into a teaser for the next episode. I too wrote down all of my dark hours of my soul, and I too had one that surprised me. But it even surprised me more as Jenny was talking when this podcast started, because it is the exact opposite of the same story that she provided. I am the daughter that left my mom. So I'm excited to delve into that in our next episode.
Yeah,
I'm still like reeling about this. This is so crazy.
It is. It is. And, I always say there's 2 sides to every story. And when you start looking at them without self-esteem, I wouldn't be able to. I would want to be right about the victimhood of mine. But the other side holds so much treasure, and I go searching for it. I go searching now, like, oh, I want to hear a different perspective. It gives me understanding and insight. So, yes, next episode, you're going to want to be here. So, okay, we'll wrap up for this particular podcast. When you find yourself at the bottom or in the dark or broken, you want to hold tight to these first 5 of 10 guidelines. Figure out who you are and where you find your strength. Nurture yourself and build your self-esteem. Really become an active in your faith and trust outcomes and let go of attachment to them. So that's not an easy formula. None of those are easy, but they're powerful. And when we go into our next episode, we're going to give you 5 more tools that are essential for our well-being, especially in those dark hours. I want to close with this. I want to remind you that each one of us has the power to ignite a spark of light, even in the darkest of moments. When I worked on myself, I began to find strength, creativity, and resilience in the midst of very painful struggles. And I want you to know that there is a beacon of hope, reminding you that even in the darkest hours, there is light. And that light lives inside each of us. But we have to look for it, and we have to claim it, and we have to give it oxygen and allow it to shine. Too often, I thought I needed things outside of myself to be that lifeline. I needed other things to bring that light to me. And I spent a lot of time sitting in the dark waiting for someone to rescue me. But when I learned that I had the power to be light, the pathway out of that darkness was illuminated, and there was no need to wait.
Yeah, you really just hit the nail on the head for me. Like when I told the story of I needed the light on in the bathroom, I was searching for the light outside of me. But when I realized I could sit in the dark and be comfortable, I just realized now it was because I had the light in me. Like that was so profound when you said that.
Yes. It's like we're little lightning bugs.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Kristen and I are going to discuss this particular episode in more depth over in the Blessing Room. You can find us there on Patreon. It's called the Blessing Room. And some of you have been saying, what is this Blessing Room you keep talking about? And oh my gosh, like, let us tell you what's there. First of all, today we will be in the Blessing Room continuing this discussion, but we also have gifts for you there. This one will have accompanying it a beautiful PDF designed by Kristen with these 10 tools. Well, it'll have 5 of them to help you feel your way through the darkness, to help you heal your way through the darkness. So there's no need to go back and try to find all these tools that we talked about in the midst of all our stories. And especially if you're listening while you're walking or driving and you don't have a pen and paper, I know that for me, it's very helpful when I can get something that reminds it and we just happen to deliver it in a beautiful PDF. In other episodes, we've included journal prompts. We've included a guided meditations and all kinds of things. We're building quite a library over there and we'd love to have you join us. It's all there. You join, it's $5 a month. And if you don't like it or you don't think it's worth that, you can cancel your membership at any time. It's very easy. So if our podcast resonates with you and you want to go deeper into this work, go give it a try. It might become an extra tool in your toolkit. So Kristen, do you have any other thoughts about that?
Well, I think a lot of people that are not familiar with a lot of the ways that podcasters work and have never heard the term Patreon. Patreon is a website, and we have created our Patreon profile and we call it the Blessing Room. And how do you find that? Go into your show notes of wherever you are listening to this podcast, and there will be a link there. Because Patreon sounds like some kind of like, I don't know, something in outer space. So like, what the heck is it? It's a website. And our room is called the Blessing Room. And we invite you there. There's so much for you waiting that your soul would just soak in.
Yes. Yes. We would love for you to have those gifts. So come join us over there. And for our, as we wrap up, I have to say one thing because we've been sitting here and I'm in my office recording this. And as we were wrapping up and talking about light, it's been a cloudy, rainy morning, and the sun literally has been washing over me as this light is pouring in my window. It says no accidents. All right. Well, whether you are working your way out of your darkest hour or you're just thinking about it, remember, do this work with love. Take care. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I hope you found a spark of wisdom to carry with you, and maybe even a deeper invitation to heal and grow and transform through your own beautiful story. Or maybe this episode made you think of someone who could use encouragement. And if so, I hope you will share it with them. If you'd like to learn more about working with me or attending one of my healing retreats, coaching programs, and other offerings, you can visit my website at jennyaiello.com or email me directly at jenny@jaiello.com. You'll find all the links in the show notes. If today's episode touched you, it would mean the world if you would leave a review or share it with someone who might need it, or just reach out and let me know how it landed for you. I'd love to hear from you. I'm building something special here. Real stories, real life, real connection. One episode, one heart, and one story at a time. As always, with love. Oh, and this is the legal message, but mostly a message from my heart. And I just need to share this with you right now. Please know this podcast is offered solely for educational and entertainment purposes. If you find yourself triggered due to anything that was shared in this podcast, please seek professional help. This podcast is not intended to be a substitute for mental health services. While I am a professional life coach, I am not a psychotherapist, nor am I a mental health clinician. So if you are struggling emotionally, please seek help, because you matter, you are important, and most of all, you are worthy of doing this work, the work that leads you to a better and healthier place. Okay? All right. Thank you. And please always make enough time to take care of yourself, and do so with love.